Charlie Kirk, an activist in America, conservative activist. He was assassinated, he was shot dead. Is this provocation or is this patriotism?
What good has his killing done? It hasn't eradicated racism. It hasn't stopped hate speech.
In fact, it's exacerbated.
It's exacerbated it, right?
Yeah.
So the answer is never violence. The answer is never killing. His killing was horrific and it was horrendous. You don't destroy or remove an ideology by killing one person or 10 people or 10,000 people. You remove an ideology by dismantling their arguments, by using more powerful logic and arguments to counter their arguments. That's the only way.
He's on record saying that it's fine if some people die for this Second Amendment.
It's a sad irony. Charlie Kirk's own views and everything he stood for is what has caused this climate.
A lot of people were seen celebrating his death. Some Muslims were even seen celebrating his death. As Muslims, how should we respond to his killing?
What's the point in celebrating it? What we should be doing is taking a step back and analyzing why this has happened. We can condemn his killing and condemn his views as well. The kind of hatred that is being spread is going to lead to violence. And it always starts with rhetoric. It always starts with speech, and that always leads to violence. And if we want to stop violence, we need to stop the hateful rhetoric that is being spread, which Charlie Kirk became a victim of himself.
What we'll talk about is the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who was a conservative, ultra right-wing activist and blogger and social media personality in the US. So he was actually shot. There was it was a university event going on outside the Utah Valley University. And he was actually talking there, and ironically he was given a question about the gun laws, the Second Amendment, for which he actually stood up for, and he's on record saying that it's fine if some people die for this Second Amendment. But after this question, he was giving his answer, and he was shot in the neck, very graphic footage, and he passed away. Now this raises a huge question because of his outrageous views which he held in his lifetime. A lot of people were seen celebrating his death. A lot of Muslims were even seen, or some Muslims were even seen celebrating his death. Now here, a huge question that people have been asking is, as Muslims, how should we respond to his killing? Because of course his views were outrageous. He is on record saying outrageous things against the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him. He called him a warlord, and he said much more vile and hurtful things, which I'm not going to repeat here right now. So when he was shot, people were celebrating. Of course, that was wrong. I really liked one thing that Mehdi Hassan said about this. He said that we can do two things at once. We can walk and chew gum. We can condemn his killing because no one deserves to die that way. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that he was a very good person. The views that he held were very wrong. And we can still criticize those views without celebrating, of course, his death. So what would you say about this?
I think you've answered everything. I don't think there's much more for me to add. Like
it was really good the way that he sort of encapsulated it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's like, we can condemn his killing and condemn his views as well. Like those two things can go hand in hand. There's nothing. The thing is, as a Muslim journalist, I obviously value free speech. My whole industry, my whole work is based upon free speech. Everything we're doing here right now. So everyone has the right to free speech. But I don't believe that hate speech is free speech. I don't believe that you can use your right to free speech to demonize other people, to spread hate, to kind of, spread lies as well. Because the stuff he said about Islam, the stuff he said, like you mentioned, about the founder of Islam, peace be upon him, and that is a misuse of free speech. And that's not justified. And even in the free speech laws, there are provisions there that free speech can and should have limitations for the protection of society. And it's sad that, and it's sad that this is the state of the world we're living in today, that hatred is being spread, and hate will always beget hate, and hatred always leads to violence. And even the killer, he actually said that, he was tired of the hate of Charlie Kirk. And that's why he did it. It's still unjustified. Why? It doesn't make sense to kill someone because of their speech. Fight fire with fire. Don't fight words with weapons. Because, what good has his killing done? It hasn't eradicated racism. It hasn't stopped hate speech.
In fact, it's exacerbated.
It's exacerbated it, right?
Yeah.
So the answer is never violence. The answer is never killing. His killing was horrific. And it was horrendous. And it's unjustified. It's criminal, right? And that's not the answer. And like I said, it didn't achieve anything. At the same time, we have to recognize what led to it. And it's a sad irony that Charlie Kirk's own views and everything he stood for is what has caused this climate. Not just him, but everyone of his kind, or everyone from the far right, the right wing conservatives, who've created this through their rhetoric, created this environment of division, of, you know, the gap between the right and left is widening. This climate of hate, this kind of fear of foreigners, this xenophobia, this racism. You've created this hate, which has led to this violence. So the right wing should wake up, and they should be more careful with their words. The thing is, when it comes to free speech, I have no issue with criticizing somebody else's beliefs or even someone else's faith, as long as it's done in a respectful way. And there's a very fine line. And in fact, it's not a fine line. It's very clear that, look, it's very obvious when someone is free. The whole point of free speech is to have intellectual discourse and to have intellectual progress. But when you're using your free speech to mock others, to deride others, to demonize minorities, then that does not come under free speech. It's not legitimized under free speech. So this should all be a moment for us to reflect that, you know, the kind of hatred that is being spread is going to lead to violence. And it always starts with rhetoric. It always starts with speech. And that always leads to violence. And if we want to stop violence, we need to stop the hateful rhetoric that is being spread, which Charlie Kirk became a victim of himself. And his views were really vile. They were racist. If you just look at some of the stuff that he said about black people.
So I've actually got them right here. So I've got a couple of quotes that I'll read out. He said about black pilots, he said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. So he was clearly against black people.
What kind of comment is that?
About black women, he said that regarding them, he said, you do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go and steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously. Then we have regarding empathy, he said, I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made up new age term that does a lot of damage.
He's claiming to stand up for Christian values.
Yeah, stand up for Christian values. Not only that, but also free speech. So you have Mehdi Hassan. He said that Mehdi Hassan, he made a remark which, of course, was Charlie Kirk wasn't a big fan of, and he said that he should be deported. So Mehdi Hassan is an American resident, citizen. He said he should be deported. So why is he now saying that he should be deported?
It's double standards. The right wing, the far right in the USA, and Trump and MAGA movement, their free speech has completely double standards. It's free speech when it suits them.
Yeah.
It's free speech when it aligns with their views. Otherwise, it's, you know, a prisonable offense.
Yeah.
The Palestinian protesters, anyone who criticizes Israel, they're either deported, they're threatened, or they're jailed, or they're labeled anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Where's their free speech gone now?
Speaking of Palestine, he didn't even recognize it as a country, even Gaza as a place as well.
Yeah, exactly.
He said George Floyd was a scumbag. And regarding guns, like I mentioned, he said that even if some people die for the Second Amendment to be upheld, then it should happen. But regardless of all of this, despite him saying all of this and us being very, very against his views, that still doesn't mean that, you know, we should now not feel sympathy for his wife and his 2 children, or that we should celebrate his killing. Of course not. We condemn that outright.
It doesn't justify his death,
No,
right? It doesn't
yeah.
justify killing someone. You can't go around killing someone and do this kind of vigilante justice. Not justice, right? It's kind of, you're causing more chaos and disorder. If you start killing everyone you don't agree with, what's going to happen in society? It's going to be chaos. It's going to be civil war. And that's not conducive to a peaceful society, which is what everyone should be and is trying to work for. And the thing is, like, celebrating it as well. What's the point in celebrating his death? It's sad that somebody has died and violence has happened. And, you know, as a Muslim, if you're celebrating it, celebrating is actually a very temporary, short-term, reactionary response. It's an emotional response. What's the point in celebrating it? What we should be doing is taking a step back and analyzing why this has happened and how to stop this happening again. You know, this is a pivotal moment in the whole of the Western world, actually, where hate speech, and you know, the funny thing about hate speech is that hate speech doesn't just radicalize your own people, So Charlie Kirk's hate speech wouldn't have just radicalized his own people to hate minorities and immigrants and Muslims. It also radicalized the people he's demonizing and speaking out against, which has led to this violence and this killing. So hate speech, creates violence and divisions, and celebrating it won't do any good to anyone. He's dead now. What are you going to do? You don't destroy or remove an ideology by killing one person or 10 people or 10,000 people. You remove an ideology by dismantling their arguments, by using more powerful logic and arguments to counter their arguments. That's the only way. And so it doesn't make sense, right? And you're just causing more anarchy. And the people who are celebrating, I won't celebrate his life either, right? The people who are celebrating his life on the right wing and that, he was this figure and, like, there's nothing there to celebrate. Because what did he spread? He didn't spread anything good, did he? But as a Muslim, like, we believe that now he's dead and now he's going to be accountable to God. His affairs with God now. So there's no point, celebrating it. But at the same time, I'm not going to condone what he did in his life either.